Hello, my name is Ryan. I'm 24, living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the edge of San Jose, California. I drive a beat-up 2005 Honda Civic with a dented fender and a radio that only works half the time. By day, I'm a kitchen assistant at a culinary school in the suburbs trying to learn the ropes of being a chef. It's not glamorous. Think early mornings, sore feet, and the constant smell of garlic and butter clinging to my clothes. But I'm strong, eager, and willing to take the heat, even if I'm still figuring out how to not burn the sauce. The culinary school is a chaotic place. It's a big open kitchen with stainless steel counters, gas stoves hissing, and students, some college kids, some older folks, chopping, stirring, and shouting over each other. Mornings are a battlefield. Knives flash, pans clatter, and the air is thick with the scent of simmering stocks and sizzling oil. I'm the rookie, the guy who hauls heavy pots and cleans up spills while trying not to look like an idiot. I'm not great with finesse yet, but I can carry a 10-liter stock pot without breaking a sweat, and that's something. That morning was no different. It was a Tuesday, humid and warm for San Jose, the kind of day where your shirt sticks to your back by 9 a.m. We were learning a French chicken soup recipe, and the kitchen was a mess of celery stalks, onion peels, and chicken bones. I was tasked with bringing a massive pot of chicken stock from the back stove to the main counter. It was a job I'd done a dozen times, no big deal. But today the energy was off. The girls in my group, 3 students in their early 20s, kept giggling and rushing me. "Hurry up, Ryan." "We're behind," one of them called, tossing a carrot into a bowl. I grabbed the pot, both hands on the handles, and started across the kitchen. The floor was slick. Someone had spilled water while rinsing vegetables, and nobody bothered to mop it up. I didn't notice until it was too late. My left foot slid out from under me and the world tilted. That's when I saw her. Linda, the new assistant instructor, had just walked into the kitchen. She was maybe mid-30s, tall, with dark brown hair tied high in a neat ponytail. She wore a crisp white blouse under her apron, and her eyes were sharp, like she could spot a miscut onion from across the room. Everyone respected her. She'd been a sous chef at some fancy restaurant downtown before teaching part-time. Her voice was calm but commanding, the kind that made you want to stand straighter. I'd barely spoken to her since she started a week ago, too intimidated to say more than, "Yes, ma'am." "Careful, Ryan," she called, turning just as I lost my balance. It happened in a heartbeat. My foot slipped, the pot lurched, and I fell forward right onto her. We crashed to the floor, the stock pot flipping sideways, hot chicken broth splashing across the tiles. I landed on top of her, my chest against hers, one hand instinctively grabbing for anything to stop my fall. That hand landed somewhere it shouldn't have. Right on her chest. Time froze. The kitchen went silent, every eye on us. I could smell her perfume, floral and soft, mixed with the sharp tang of spilled broth. Her hair was splayed across the floor, and her blouse, now soaked, clung to her skin, outlining curves I hadn't meant to notice. My face burned as I realized where my hand was. I yanked it back, but the damage was done. Linda's eyes widened, her face paling, then flushing red. She shoved me off, scrambling to her feet. You pervert!" she shouted, her voice cracking with shock. Before I could say a word, her hand swung and a sharp slap stung my cheek. The sound echoed in the quiet kitchen. I staggered back, clutching my face, my mind blank. The class stared, some jaws dropped, others whispering. Linda grabbed an apron from the counter, clutching it to her chest to cover her wet blouse. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with fury and embarrassment. "What are you looking at?" she snapped at me, her voice trembling. "Get away from me, you creep." I opened my mouth to apologize, but nothing came out. She spun around, storming toward the door. "I don't want to see you again," she yelled, slamming it behind her. The bang rattled the pots on the shelves. The whispers exploded into murmurs. "Holy crap, Ryan's in trouble," one guy muttered. "Did he just—" a girl whispered, giggling. I stood there, broth soaking my shoes, my cheek throbbing, feeling like the biggest idiot alive. I mumbled, "It was an accident." But nobody seemed to care. The head instructor, a stern woman named Mary, shot me a look that said, "I'd better fix this, fast." For the rest of the class, I kept my head down, scrubbing counters and avoiding eye contact. The girls who'd rushed me earlier smirked, one whispering, "Nice move, Romeo." I forced a laugh, pretending it didn't sting, but it did. By the time I got home, my tiny apartment felt even smaller. I flopped onto my bed, the slap still ringing in my ears. I could still smell Linda's perfume, feel the warmth of her skin under my hand, and see the hurt in her eyes. It was an accident, but why did I feel so guilty? And why couldn't I stop thinking about her? I slapped my own face, muttering, "Get it together, Ryan." But deep down, I knew this mess was just beginning. The next morning, I dragged myself out of bed, my cheek still tingling from Linda's slap. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, half expecting to see a handprint, but there was just my tired face, shadowed with dread. I didn't want to go to class, didn't want to face the whispers or Linda's glare, but skipping wasn't an option. The culinary school was my shot at something better, and I couldn't let one stupid accident ruin it. I threw on my usual black t-shirt and jeans, grabbed my keys, and drove my creaky Honda Civic to the school. My stomach knotted the whole way. The kitchen was already buzzing when I arrived, earlier than usual, hoping to blend into the background. I started wiping down counters, keeping my head low. The other students trickled in, their chatter dying down when they saw me. A couple of girls from yesterday smirked, one whispering something that made the other laugh. I ignored them, focusing on the shine of the stainless steel, but my ears burned. Then Linda walked in. She looked different today. Her hair still tied high, but her blouse was looser, her apron tied tighter, like she was shielding herself. Her face was a mask, calm and professional, but she didn't glance my way, not once. She started the lesson, her voice steady, as she demonstrated knife cuts for a vegetable stew. I stayed in the back, chopping carrots, trying to be invisible. It worked for a while until she called out, sharp and clear, "Ryan, come here." My heart lurched. Every head turned. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to her station, feeling like a kid sent to the principal's office. She stood by the prep table, arms crossed, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "I need 50 onions diced, small and uniform," she said, pointing to a crate in the corner. "Get it done fast. You don't leave until it's finished." I nodded, muttering, "Yes, ma'am," and grabbed a knife. The task felt like a punishment, and maybe it was. I set up in the corner, the crate looming like a mountain. As I sliced, the onion's sting hit hard. My eyes watered, tears streaming down my cheeks. I blinked them away, but it was no use. A guy nearby snickered. "Crying already? Romeo?" Another whispered, "Guess the pervert's got feelings." I gritted my teeth, keeping my focus on the blade. Linda passed by, her shoes clicking on the tiles. She paused, watching me struggle. "What, crying already?" she said, her tone sharp, but with a hint of something else. Amusement, maybe. "You were bolder yesterday." I froze, my knife hovering, my face flushed, not from the onions. "I'm sorry," I mumbled, barely audible. "I didn't mean to. It was an accident." She didn't respond, just gave me a long look, her eyes flickering with something, anger, embarrassment, or both, before walking away. I kept cutting, the pile of onions growing, my hands stinging as much as my pride. Class ended and the others left, laughing and chatting. I stayed, finishing the last few onions, my eyes red and raw. I was packing up when Mary, the head instructor, pulled me aside. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, her gray hair tucked under a cap. "Ryan," she said, her voice low, "about yesterday. You need to apologize properly to Linda. She's tough, but she's fair. Don't let her think you're that kind of guy." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I tried, but she won't even look at me." Mary sighed. "She's embarrassed, too. Give her time, but show her you're serious. You're a good kid. Don't let one mistake define you." Her words stuck with me. I couldn't keep hiding. That afternoon, I started small. Linda was carrying a stack of mixing bowls to the storage room, and I stepped in, taking half the load without asking. "I got this," I said, keeping my eyes on the bowls. She hesitated, then muttered, "Fine." We walked in silence, but it felt like a start. Over the next few days, I made a point to help her, carrying heavy pots, sweeping up spills, setting up her station before she asked. She didn't thank me at first, but she stopped snapping. Once, when I handed her a bottle of water during a break, she took it and said, "Thanks, Ryan." Her voice softer, almost surprised. I caught a glimpse of her then, not the strict instructor, but a woman who was just as rattled by yesterday as I was. By the end of the week, I noticed her watching me sometimes, not with anger, but curiosity, like she was trying to figure me out. I didn't push, didn't talk about the incident. I just kept showing up, doing the work, hoping she'd see I wasn't the creep she thought. And maybe, just maybe, I was starting to see her differently too. Not as the scary teacher, but as someone real. Someone who might understand if I could just find the right words. The days after I started helping Linda felt like walking on eggshells. The culinary school kitchen was still a whirlwind of clanging pans and sharp knives, but the air between us carried a new weight. I kept up my routine, hauling pots, scrubbing counters, chopping vegetables, while sneaking glances at her. Linda was back to her poised self, guiding students with that calm, commanding voice. But she avoided lingering near me. Her smiles, rare as they were, went to others. I told myself it was fine. I was proving I wasn't the guy she'd slapped, the one she'd called a pervert. But the whispers around me said otherwise. The rumors hadn't died. If anything, they'd grown, twisting the accident into something uglier. During a break, I overheard two girls by the sink. "Ryan totally meant to do it," one said, slicing potatoes. "You saw how he looked at her." The other laughed. "Poor Linda, stuck with the creep." I gripped my knife tighter, pretending not to hear, but my chest burned. Later, a guy in my group nudged me while we cleaned. "So, you and Linda, huh? Got a thing for teachers?" He grinned like it was a joke, but it stung. I mumbled, "It was an accident," and walked away. Linda must have heard the chatter too. I caught her once mid-lesson, pausing as a student whispered something and glanced at us. Her face tightened and she quickly changed the topic, her voice sharper than usual. She started eating lunch alone in the corner of the break room, her eyes fixed on a book, shutting out the world. I wanted to fix it, to make the rumor stop, but I didn't know how. Every time I got close to her station, I felt eyes on me, judging, waiting for another mistake. One afternoon, after a long class on braising techniques, I stayed late to mop the floor. Most of the students had left, their laughter fading down the hall. I was wringing out the mop when I saw Linda outside on the second-floor balcony, leaning against the railing, staring at the fading sunset. Her shoulders were slumped, her usual confidence gone. She looked tired. I hesitated, my sneakers squeaking on the tiles. I could have left, let her be, but something pulled me toward her. I had to try. I stepped onto the balcony, my hands stuffed in my pockets. "Hey, Linda," I said softly, my voice almost lost in the evening breeze. She turned, startled, her eyes narrowing for a second before softening. "Ryan," she said, her tone neutral. "What do you want?" I took a deep breath, my heart thudding. "I need to apologize again for that day, the pot, everything. I swear I didn't mean it. I'd never, do that on purpose. I just want you to know I'm not that guy." My words tumbled out clumsy but honest. She didn't speak for a long moment, her gaze drifting back to the horizon. The sky was streaked with orange and purple, casting a warm glow on her face. Finally, she sighed, her voice low. "I know you didn't mean it, Ryan. I believe you. But you have no idea how it felt. To be on that floor with everyone staring and your hand." She trailed off, her cheeks flushing. "I'm not some young girl. I'm in my 30s, teaching here, trying to be professional. And then that happened. I was humiliated." I nodded, my throat tight. "I'm so sorry. I feel awful about it. I see how people look at us now and I hate it." I paused, then added, "I just want to make it right." She turned to face me, her eyes searching mine. "It's not just you, it's the whispers, the looks. I can't walk into that kitchen without feeling like they're talking about me, about us." She shook her head. "I don't blame you anymore, but please, from now on, be careful. Keep your distance in class. I can't handle more gossip." "I will," I promised, my voice steady. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this easier for you." She gave a small nod, her expression softening. "Thank you, Ryan." She hesitated, then added, "You're not a bad kid, just clumsy." A faint smile tugged at her lips, the first I'd seen directed at me since the incident. I smiled back, relief washing over me. "I'll work on that." She turned back to the sunset, and I took it as my cue to leave, my sneakers scuffing the concrete as I headed inside. After that, I doubled down on proving myself. I carried heavy stock pots for her, set up her cutting boards, and stayed late to clean, always keeping a respectful distance in front of others. Slowly, I noticed a change. Linda's instructions to me became less curt, her tone warmer. Once, when I handed her a clean spatula, our fingers brushed, and she didn't pull away immediately. She just said, "Thanks," and kept working, but it felt like progress. Still, the rumors lingered. A photo of us standing near the stove, taken during a group project, ended up in the class group chat with a winking emoji. Linda saw it and asked me to stay out of group shots. It hurt, but I understood. I was starting to care about her, not just as a teacher, but as a person. And that scared me. I didn't know if I was fixing things or making them worse, but I couldn't stop trying. The weeks after our balcony talk were a delicate balance. I kept my promise to Linda, staying professional in class, avoiding anything that could fuel the rumors. The culinary school kitchen hummed with its usual chaos, sizzling pans, shouted instructions, the sharp scent of herbs, but I felt a shift. Linda's glances weren't as cold, and sometimes when I handed her a knife or a bowl, she'd nod with a small, almost grateful smile. I clung to those moments, tiny signs that I was earning her trust. But the whispers still followed us, and I sensed her hesitation, like she was guarding something fragile. One afternoon, we were prepping for an Asian cuisine class, learning to make sashimi. I was at my station, trying to slice a slab of tuna with a precision I hadn't mastered. The knife was sharp, my hands sweaty from the humid kitchen. I pressed too hard, and the blade slipped, cutting into my left hand. Pain shot through me, and blood welled up, dripping onto the cutting board. I cursed under my breath, clutching my hand, but before I could move, Linda was there. "Ryan, what did you do?" she said, her voice sharp with worry. She grabbed my wrist, pulling me to the sink. Her hands were steady, rinsing the cut under cold water, her fingers firm but gentle. "Hold still," she ordered, grabbing a clean towel to press against the wound. I stood there, heart pounding, not from the pain but from her closeness. Her perfume, that same floral scent from the day I fell, filled my senses. "It's not deep," she said, inspecting the cut, her brow furrowed. She reached for a first aid kit, her movements quick but careful. "You're too reckless. How do you expect to be a chef like this?" Her tone was scolding, but her eyes betrayed concern, soft and unguarded. I managed a weak grin. "Guess I'm still the clumsy guy you slapped." The words slipped out, a risky jab at our past. Her hands froze, and I braced for a rebuke, but she laughed, a short, surprised sound that broke the tension. "Don't remind me," she said, her cheeks pink as she taped a bandage over my cut. "You're lucky I didn't slap you harder." She stepped back, crossing her arms, but her smile lingered. "Thanks for the help, though. You've been better lately." I rubbed the bandage, warmth spreading in my chest. "Thanks for not hating me anymore. I mean it." She rolled her eyes, but the softness in her expression stayed. After that, something changed. Linda started asking me to stay late, not for chores, but to taste dishes she was testing. One evening, after a class on Italian sauces, she handed me a spoon of marinara. "Too acidic?" she asked, leaning against the counter. I savored the tangy warmth, shaking my head. "Perfect!" We sat on stools, the kitchen quiet, and talked, really talked. She told me about her 20s, working in a Michelin-starred restaurant, the thrill of creating under pressure, and how she quit when it broke her spirit. Now, at 35, she lived alone in a small condo, teaching to stay connected to food without the chaos. I opened up too about dropping out of college after a year, chasing a vague dream of owning a food truck. "I'm not there yet," I admitted, "but I want to make something real." She nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "You've got heart, Ryan." That's more than most. Those evenings became our ritual, cleaning up, tasting recipes, sharing pieces of ourselves. I learned she loved jazz but couldn't dance, that she'd once burned a cake so badly it set off her smoke alarm. She laughed when I confessed to eating instant ramen at 2 a.m. But we never crossed a line. Once, while reaching for a ladle, my hand brushed hers, and we both froze. She pulled back, her voice firm but kind. "Ryan, we can't let people talk again. You get that, right?" I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. "Yeah, I know." But it hurt because I was starting to see her not just as my teacher, but as a woman, strong, wounded, real. I wanted to know more, to be closer, but the rumors loomed like a wall between us. Still, those quiet moments, her laughter, her steady presence, felt like something worth protecting. I wasn't sure what we were building, but I knew I didn't want to lose it. Not yet. The culinary school announced a Master Chef of the Week contest, a chance for students and instructors to team up and impress a panel of local chefs. I didn't expect to be paired with Linda, but when Mary read our names, my stomach flipped. Linda raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk crossing her face. "Don't spill anything this time," she teased, and I grinned, relieved to see her lighten up. We had one evening to prepare a steak dish with a side salad, and I was determined not to mess it up. We worked side by side in the quiet kitchen, the hum of the fridge, our only company. I sliced mushrooms while Linda seared the steaks, her hands steady, guiding me on plating. "Angle the slices, Ryan," she said, nudging my arm. "Make it pretty." Her touch was brief, but it sent a jolt through me. We moved like a team, her precision balancing my enthusiasm. When we presented our dish, juicy steak drizzled with herb butter paired with a vibrant salad, the judges raved about the flavors and presentation. We won Best Plating, and Linda's face lit up, her laugh bright and unguarded, the first time I'd seen her so free. After the awards, the class gathered for photos, the kitchen glowing under fluorescent lights. Linda stood close, her shoulder brushing mine, and for once she didn't pull away. The others drifted out, their chatter fading, leaving us to clean up. I wiped down the counter, stealing a glance at her. She was stacking plates, humming softly, her hair slipping from its ponytail. I took a chance. "Hey, Linda," I said, my voice light. "You ever think about that pervert incident now?" She froze, then burst out laughing, covering her mouth. "You're awful," she said, her eyes sparkling. "But yeah, I do. It's kind of funny now, isn't it? You, the clumsy kid, taking me down with a pot of soup." Her cheeks flushed, but she didn't look away. "You're not that guy, Ryan, just adorably awkward." I chuckled, warmth spreading through me. "Thanks for not hating me forever." She smiled, softer now. "You make it hard to stay mad." We finished cleaning, stepping outside into the cool night. The streetlights cast long shadows on the pavement, our silhouettes blending on the tiles. I looked at her, her face softened by the glow, and felt the gap between us, age, roles, rumors, melt away. We weren't lovers, not yet, but we were something. Friends, maybe, with a spark that could grow if we let it. "You're not so bad yourself," I said, my voice steady. She met my gaze, her eyes warm. "Keep practicing, Ryan. You might surprise me." That night, walking to my car, I felt different. Steadier, less like the kid who'd spilled soup and more like a man who could build something real. Linda had opened up, her walls lowering, and I'd grown too, learning to own my mistakes. Our story wasn't finished, just beginning, a quiet promise under the San Jose stars.